Welcome to Two Baptists and That Amish Chick, a podcast brought to you by the Butterchurn Girls. I'm Leslie.
And I'm Bethany.
And I'm Berlin. Join us for candid conversations about organized religion, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how we broke free from it while holding on to our faith in God.
In these candid conversations, you can expect to laugh, to relate, occasionally cry, and definitely hear a few cuss words.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and follow at the Butterchurn Girls on all socials. Now for this week's episode.
Are you a Christian if you believe in God? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what is a Christian and who decided to give us, I should say, people who believe in God, give people who believe in God that label? Because I don't think that you have to be a Christian to believe in God.
Mm-mm.
I think they're very, I don't think they're the same thing. And it's really interesting to go back and find out where the term Christian came from, because Jesus didn't give us that. So anyway, let's talk about it, because I never really thought about it until probably a couple of years ago when I was faced with that question. Well, with the history of the term Christianity, like where it came from and who made it up, or, you know, who started that trend. And now I'm not so sure that I actually want to be called that.
I love that. I love this conversation. I've been wanting to do this episode for a long time. Been so excited about it because this is something that's big, because this is something I ponder a lot. I go through social media feeds and like people that are just in my life and stuff. And I look at the different ways they believe, the different things they believe, and every single one of them call themselves Christian. I grew up in an area where there was a few churches that were anything outside of Catholic. And I always thought it was interesting that Catholics called themselves Christians, and then we called ourselves Christians. Yet, from our perspective in the Baptist faith, everything they believed was completely opposite to us. Completely opposite. And so it was always kind of confusing in general. Of course, there was always something explained away about it, like, oh, we're the real Christians. I know Bethany talks about this in a lot of her
The real
story.
Slim Shady.
We were the real Slim Shady. Bethany mentions this a lot about, like, you know, the Amish were the real ones, and then you have the other Christians that just don't know better and stuff. And so it's a cool thing to have a conversation about, because I like to ponder that a lot, because I'm like, what does the word Christian even mean? First of all, there's the explanation of what it actually originally meant, which originally
was not cool.
It was a derogatory term. It was something you wouldn't want to be called. It was something they used to mock and make fun of people who actually follow Christ. Because originally, people who follow Christ, they called themselves followers of the way, right? Which now I always think that sounds like a cult. Followers of the way. Yeah, but Christians it was a derogatory term. It was a mockery. It was making fun of them. It was not something you wanted to be called at all. I don't know if the term would be, you know, if we translate it to now, I don't know if it'd be like something that would be racist, or it would be like almost like something of that nature, right? Like it would be a term, something like that. And so it was interesting when I first learned what the definition originally was, and then looking at life now today, on the fact that it really has, from my perspective, it has no meaning. The word Christian has no meaning. If you believe all of Catholicism, you're a Christian. If you are Baptist faith, you're a Christian. If you are Amish, you're a Christian. Am I correct?
Yeah,
you're a Christian. You can go through all these different other denominations and stuff, and they call themselves Christian, and they believe completely different things.
So like, it's almost unifying in today's world. But back then it was divisive, like not divisive, but like they're Christian.
It was the label to set them aside.
Like isolating.
Yeah. But I feel like today, my opinion is that yes, it is unifying in a way that it can create a connection where it's like, oh, we're cool with one another. But first of all, we should be cool with one another. If I walk up and say I'm Jewish and I believe the Jewish faith, right? And then, because Jewish don't call themselves Christians, right?
No, they're Jewish.
Like, I know they don't. Like, it doesn't have that division, right? Like there shouldn't be a division anyways.
But Christians still kind of think of themselves, I feel like better than.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so it's interesting on that, but at the same time, I feel like it has no meaning. You can say I'm a Christian and it tells nothing about what you represent.
Yes.
Because no one knows what it means. There's no actual.
It's just a vanilla. The only thing it does
is
it gives preconceived notions of all the negativity that's been seen and throws it on you. Right. I think there's so many assumed things at what it means to be a Christian. Because I think even just scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through all these things, I actually have a lot of like atheists and Satanists and all sorts of stuff on my feed. I know that probably sounds a little scary to some people.
Witches love me. They follow me like
Listen,
crazy.
they do, yeah, the witches love me too. But like, it's amazing to hear them talk about Christians, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not what 90% of people believe, but a few people with a loud mouth or somebody with a loud mouth who hurt them has now completely set all Christians, anyone who believes in God, in this same category. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so not what, like, one, I understand that maybe that is what a lot of people believe in whatever video comes up, but I'm like, but if you only knew the truth of that situation, you not only the person who got hurt, but like even the person who did the hurting, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wish I was like, oh no. Like there's always things like in our previous episode, we talked about all the holes that are getting punched in, and it's literally over petty stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it is petty.
Yeah.
But it's really amazing to see how the word Christian just clumps anyone who believes or talks about God in one category.
Yeah.
And it's actually something I've even been like wondering about. I'm like, am I a Christian? Because I really hate that label.
Right.
I don't like that label at all. And I was like, what am I?
Right.
And that's what's bringing up this whole conversation. Like, do we even call ourselves a Christian anymore? And I was telling them, I was like, I don't know that I'm going to have a whole lot, because I just don't quite, I haven't found what, like, I don't know that it has to be labeled first off, like, not to sound like hippie woo woo going, I don't subscribe to labels. But like, I don't like the word Christian, because I think it comes with so much negative connotation that people just automatically shut their ears, throw walls up, no matter what, whether I'm mentioning God or not. Right. But I don't know.
And I think the term Christianity in today's culture is kind of going full circle back to what it was originally used for.
100%. Oh, that's what the world's
like.
Wow.
I really think it's coming back full circle. And I think it's an opportunity for people to really look at themselves, because you can tell me that you're a Christian. And I used to, like, if somebody told me they were a Christian, I instantly thought they were a good person. They were trustworthy. They were morally, like, good, whatever. Now, I don't believe that anymore. You can tell me you're a Christian and I'm like, great, that tells me nothing about you. Like, I feel like a lot of people, not everybody, but there's people out there who use the term Christianity to get what they want.
It's a stepping stool. It's a leg up.
Like it's like a way for them to get to where they want to go, and they use it. And that's the people that give it a really bad rap. Right. But they use it to get what they want. And it's like, okay, do you believe like of God, right? You can believe that God is real, right? And do a lot of shitty things. Just because you believe God is real does not mean that you're a good person, because like, you can believe, in God, but do you believe like him?
That's good.
That's the thing. Like, you can say you're a Christian and believe in God, and that's cool, but that gets you nowhere, really. Like, that doesn't say anything about what you actually believe. Like, because if you believe like God, you will be a completely different person who is like living in their original intent, in like who is like manifesting all of the fruits of the Spirit and like all the good things without even trying, really. I mean, yeah, you might have to sometimes, but do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of people who they're like, yeah, I believe in God, and it's the end. They've been raised in the faith or anything, that actually walk out more fruits of the Spirit than your average Christian.
Yes.
That's what I pulled up the definitions here on the interwebs of what Christian is, and it literally just says relating to or professing Christianity or its teachings.
Okay, what's Christianity?
And Christianity is less commonly referred to as Christianism. It is a monotheistic religion based on the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. And what I found interesting with that is a lot of Christianity that we see today is not based on the life and the teachings of Jesus. It's based on the Bible. And there's a difference there.
Right.
There's a difference there. Jesus and his teachings are only in they're in a much smaller portion of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time in the freaking Old Testament before Jesus was even around, teaching on these things over and over again, saying, this is Christianity, this is Christianity. No, it's not.
Yeah.
According to this, it is not. And so it's very interesting to look at these definitions, and like even a quick search says, I mean, even when it says Christian as a noun, it says a person who has received Christian baptism or is a believer in Christianity.
So it's not even believing in Jesus. It's just saying believing in
in a religion.
Christianity.
Yeah. Which is a bunch of different religions. So, I mean, literally it's pretty much explained that Christianity, what being a Christian is just following some of the works and the actions that
Some form of rules.
the religions do.
Yeah. Like, it's like,
It's
as long
like-
as your set of rules match one of the denominations, you're good.
You're a Christian.
See, that's the thing I have such a problem with, because it's like, it's not letting yourself become something. It's just something, you just do different actions. You just do something different to line up with a, set of values, or like a church or whatever. I'm trying to think of an analogy I could use, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. It's so not what Jesus came to do. Like, Jesus didn't come to bring Christianity. He came to literally change the world. Like, he bankrupted the system of darkness. I think that's probably the biggest work anybody will ever do with their life. Like, I don't know that anybody else, I'm sorry, nobody else will be able to do that, because like
It's done,
it's
first
done,
off.
right? First off, but like, he came to upgrade every single area of our life, to like reestablish the kingdom that we were originally designed for, to be like citizens of this kingdom, to be kings and queens and priests, and like all these incredibly amazing things that we've always been. We just like fell off of it when we decided to do something else that was less than what we were made to do, right? And then we've like watered it down to being a Christian and like doing things. We're not a human doing, we're a human being.
That's
But
good.
Christianity is human doings out there just doing shit and calling it, oh, this is what Jesus. Okay, you can do all those things, that's fine, but what have you become?
Yeah.
Do you believe like God? Do you like, and that's the thing, once you realize that, you don't need a label. You don't need a title. It's like, ooh, this is good. People need Christianity. I feel like people need Christianity to give them an identity, a spiritual identity, or like a label, like, oh, I'm a Christian. So like, I've like, somehow it gives them validity. It gives them what they believe. It gives it like weight, or gives them a position or a status or whatever. And it's not doing that anymore. I think it used to. I think there used to be a time, but then Christians started abusing it, or people started people started abusing the term Christian, and it's now like nobody really wants anything to do with it. It's coming full circle. And that's really interesting to see. Like, I wonder in 20 years
What it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's really interesting. You were even talking about how we're supposed to like be like Jesus, right? Yet, do you know how many sermons Jesus spoke on salvation?
one
Just one. Jesus preached salvation one time
to one person.
True. Yeah.
And he preached it differently than it's preached today. Today it's you're a sinner, you're a sinner,
Well,
you're a
and
sinner.
then
Not God is good, come have a relationship with me.
right. And so he spoke on the kingdom. And that's why it's so much more important. And even in that salvation message, did he not talk about the kingdom?
He did.
Like,
Yeah.
so the kingdom was
He actually
literally
talked about being born again.
right.
Not being saved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So where does
and
salvation
so,
come
well, and that's well, and the whole point is like a Christian is not about being saved or a salvation. Right? Like if
I
we're
think
trying
people
to
lump it in there.
I do too, right? But I think it's really interesting that we tend to think, oh, well, if they're not saved, they're not a Christian.
Mhm.
And we're trying to save them to Christianity, not save them to God.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Like we're trying to
trying to bring
save
them
people
into
to the
the-
wrong thing.
Into the
We're
rituals.
trying to save people into a lifestyle instead of into a like being, like a whole new, like an upgrade in who they are. It's like if we can just put this lifestyle on you and you live it long enough, then you become it. Then you like
Well, that's works
are
based
good
then,
enough. Well,
you know?
that's
And so
exactly
like we're made like once we are born again, we are a new creation never before seen, like entirely new. And so why would like I feel like there's so much pressure on like get saved, get saved, get saved, get saved, and then good luck.
right.
Or like, you know, it's just going to take them time. Or, you know, like there's so many different narratives that just, I feel like just play in even more to giving that Christian label and that name even more of a bad rap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's definitely a what you said, like, you know, get saved, and then oh, good luck. Like once you're in, it's like, okay, well, you know, we hope you make it. Yeah, that's why people don't like Christianity. One of the reasons
I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's like we believe that Jesus died and saved you, and then after you accept it, we're like, well, we don't really know. You're gonna have to work, and you're gonna have to like make sure.
But now you need to change.
But now
to
you
be
need
loved.
to change and do things in order for you to be accepted.
You need to
Again,
start looking like me.
being an oxymoron. There's morons who are doing dumb stuff, and like, and I don't think that most people really know. Like that's the thing that just blows my mind. Most people don't stop and think. Christians out there don't stop and think about what they're doing. They're literally talking about out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why people hate Christianity. It's because it's a bunch of people like talking two things and living.
We have people talking two
Like-
things, and then you have those people with the same title talking two completely separate things that are also talking two things. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like
yes.
it's like so many different directions where it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't bring
At all.
peace.
No,
It doesn't
it's
bring
it's chaos.
life.
It is a term that brings chaos to your mind
Mhm.
and doesn't bring peace.
Yes. Yeah, it's like after you become a Christian, you have more work than before. Why would you want to be a
And
Christian?
didn't Jesus say like, my yoke is easy and my burden is light? Like
Right.
there's nothing, it's not supposed to get harder.
Exactly. But what happens? It becomes a whole lot harder in modern
It
Christianity.
is because you have to work your way into it. And that's
Mhm.
not at all what Jesus ever spoke on or taught.
Right. Well, like, and you've got to work to stay in it, or you're going to lose it. That's the thing. It's like you have it, but you better work your ass off, because the moment you don't do the right things, you're out.
All of it's revoked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Said who? Like, did Jesus say
Right.
that? I'm pretty sure he didn't say that. He said what? He literally told the thief on the cross, because you believe you're boom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and that's a whole thing. How
That
does that
was-
fit into your theology? There was no
Yes.
baptism. There was no sinner's prayer. There was no ABCs. There was no going down to the front, raising his hand, right? Like, where does that fit into your theology?
Yeah.
Right there's a big hole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that punches a big hole in a lot of people's
Mhm.
stuff, because and they're like, oh, well, it was because it's Jesus. No, Jesus said you would do greater things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I can save more than a thief on a cross. And
Right.
I'm not the one saving.
Right.
But I'm saying like I can help be that like connection point, right?
Right.
We have a friend that uses this example. She was like, God, how do I play into these scenarios? He's like, you hold hands with them and you hold hands with me, and until they're ready to grab my hand and you connect us.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's beautiful. Like,
Yes.
that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Not guilting them into, you better walk over there and do this. Like, you
Mhm.
better go grab his hand. Like,
Like
okay.
we are, whether we do it cognitively or like consciously or not, which I think most of us are. I'm saying us because I'm talking about people who believe in Christianity, whatever. I'm just the whole believers thing. We try to do Holy Spirit's job so many times in people being born again. Like, we think that if we don't do enough, well, when we're also taught you need to go out and tell people that they're doing their own thing and they need to be saved, and like, you've got to go out. I'm like, a city that's set on a hill will draw people to itself. Didn't Jesus say that? Like, you can't dim the light.
Also, being born again is just renewing your mind. There are so many personal development coaches that do a way better job of renewing your mind. Churches sit there and say, focus on your sin, focus on your sin, focus on. They don't renew your minds
No,
for the most part. There are some that do.
They just help
But-
you dig the pit that you're in deeper.
Yes.
well, and it's like if people want your help, they know where to go. Like, your life should be so awesome that people are like, what the heck are you doing? What are you doing? I want that, right? That's when you know that you're doing things right, is when people come to you and you tell them, well, I know this great guy, like, I can introduce you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all your job is. The rest is his job. Like, let your life be so awesome
Mm-hmm.
that people ask you, what are you doing? And how many Christians have that kind of life? Most of them are depressed, sad, fearful, angry, they're like judgmental,
False humility.
all those things. And they think that, I'm living like, why are not more people doing this? Because it looks like shit and nobody wants a part of it. You're not really like,
Mm-hmm.
the kingdom is attractive. A kingdom attracts people.
Oh
It doesn't repel people.
Yeah.
So being a Christian, like, isn't the best thing to be, I don't think, in my opinion.
It makes me think of, like, listen, I feel like this is one of the things that I always got in our Baptist church. It's always the people that they think they're fun, but they're so stinking boring.
Yeah.
Christians can still have fun. And I'm like, not like that, Nancy. Like, calm down. Like, no. Mm-mm. And for the longest time, like, it was so depressing. I was just like, I'm having way more fun.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, there's a little guilt and shame that comes with it, but it's fun.
But it's
like,
but it's coming from you guys, not from God. I just
Right.
realized that anyways. Like,
but I'm like, I literally thought, oh, I'm never gonna have fun again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I'm saved, so there's that,
Yeah.
like it was. And now I'm realizing, like, relationship with God is actually fun. Like, I don't want to be that person that's like, you can still have fun, but like, honestly, don't tell me God doesn't have a sense of humor. 1, have you looked at people? 2, have you looked at animals? 3, have you, like, do you laugh at things? That's part of his personality too.
yeah.
Your sense of humor is part of him. And so I'm like,
Have you looked at people? She said.
was there a lie? No.
That is funny.
But like, I think so often we like, and I think that's another one of those aspects. Like, we have these people who are almost like nuns and monks and just like really like isolated and quiet, and they spend 8 hours in prayer a day. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
If they want to do that,
Like,
that
if
is
that's
amazing.
yes,
Like,
that I'm proud for you.
right? It's just
That
not-
doesn't sound fun to me.
right.
And
Yeah.
so, like, I think so often that even something as simple as like
Mhm.
Christians can still have fun. Like, it's like,
Oh,
but
God.
at
That's
what
what
expense?
expectation that you can't.
Exactly. I think
Right.
things like that
Yeah.
keep people at bay too.
Mhm. Yeah.
They don't have like, people would honestly probably not even have an issue with Jesus or God, but it's the people in the like stigma that is
Yes.
like been given to
People
a
who've made
label
God
Yeah.
look bad.
that
not
means
God.
nothing,
Yeah.
that are holding people back.
So I looked up the definition of what I call myself. We'll probably all discuss what we kind of call ourselves here. And I was looking at some other notes and stuff too. And it's interesting because it asks what the difference is between what I call myself and religion, which we would consider people call themselves Christians to be religious people, most of them.
Mhm.
Like 99.9% of them. In a way, and it's really interesting. It says there's some pretty clear ways in which religion and spirituality, that's, I tend to call myself that. I say I'm a spiritual person or spiritualist. There's a pretty clear ways in which religion and spirituality differ. Religion is a specific set of organized beliefs and practices usually shared by a community or group. Spirituality, this is more of an individual practice and has to do with having a sense of peace and purpose.
And I would add in a relationship, an individual relationship.
Yes. And there's other notes, I mean, in here that I'm looking at different definitions and stuff.
Mhm.
It talks about asking deep questions on topics. It talks about having positive thinking, inner peace, being egoless, unconditional love, optimism, harmony, humility, responsibility, compassion, justice, simplicity. I'm not gonna read that word because I always say it wrong.
Reciprocity.
Yep, that was. See, you struggled too.
No, I knew what it was.
I know. It's just
Well, all I saw was
it's-
responsibility, and I went, which word are we
She's
at?
like, no.
That's what I heard.
But okay, reading all of those, can I just say something
Mhm.
really quick? How many of those things, I was just, as she was reading, I was like, a lot of those things are not in Christianity.
A lot of those things sound a lot like Jesus.
Exactly. But a lot of those things aren't
Mhm.
allowed
Mhm.
or are like counterfeit versions of that thing in Christianity.
You know, I'm remembering a conversation I had with a friend. She was talking about her fiance. And she was talking about her wedding being in the church. And she's like, he really doesn't want to get married in the church. And I was like, why not? She's like, well, because he's more spiritual than religious. And several years ago, I went, then watch yourself. Like, who are you tying yourself to? Right. Like,
Yeah.
that was my mindset. And that
Yeah.
was, of course, was like drilled into me. Yes, I think it's very important that you believe pretty close
Yeah.
with your spouse. Right.
Mhm.
Like, don't set yourself up.
Yeah.
But like I just like was taken back to that conversation.
Mhm.
And when you started reading off like the spiritual part, I like forever ago that always made me nervous because I just automatically assumed those are the people that believed in the universe, right? And just like it's the power of the universe. And I'm like, or you know, like
Right.
again, like I think there's so many different labels that people have
Mhm.
on things, and you have to have like the maturity and like just intelligence to understand what people are actually saying.
Yeah.
Because we use a lot of words, but to understand what's being said.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, I still call myself a Christian, but only because I know one, who I'm talking to, and I know how that point is going to be taken and received.
Mhm.
With other believers who are still religious, right? That's
Mhm.
usually
Yeah.
who I use that term with.
Yeah.
Or if it's unbelievers, I'm like, yeah, like God and I are cool. Like, I don't
Mhm.
really say I'm a Christian, but
Mhm.
like God and I have a relationship. Like, you know,
Mhm.
that's kind of where I think having that intelligence and like how you speak and how you like use language with different people and knowing your audience, who you're talking to,
Mhm.
is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and staying true to who you are as a person and how you want that to be portrayed
Mhm.
too.
Yes.
So that's even for me, if I'm talking to someone that, or a group of people, you know, on social media, I know it's specifically who I'm talking to. For myself, I won't use the word Christian, but I'll be like, hey, like I believe in God and Jesus and, you know, Holy Spirit. I have a
Mhm.
connection with those three. Even though if I said I was a Christian, there are people who believe in the Trinity that would be like, that was all encompassing. But I know for myself, that speaks differently to the group of people that follow me, right? I know it's going to be completely different because they hear many of those people hear the word Christian and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Whereas they're like, oh, she has this connection with these different parts of God. It kind of sets me outside of there. So I think it's important to know what feels true to you. Again, connecting with people the way you want to, right? For each person, to know how it's going to be received with them.
Yep.
As well. What do
Yeah.
you call yourself, Bethany?
I don't really call myself anything, to be honest. Like if people ask me, I'm like, I believe in God. Usually that's what I'll tell them. Like, I don't, but then with like really super religious people, like if I go back home, you know, we don't ever talk about this. So I guess I've never really had to use it, but like, I would definitely be like, yeah, I'm a Christian, because I know for them, that's what they mean. Like,
Mhm.
But for them, Christianity also means doing exactly what you're taught to do and told to do as well. So,
But not by Christ.
No,
just
but
by a
like-
bishop.
yeah, like, know
Yeah.
better, you were raised this way or whatever. But if somebody who's like, who I don't know, who's just a stranger, like,
Yeah.
don't know who they are or whatever,
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, I believe in God,
I think referring back to that too, like about your family, because I think about that, and even just I had a conversation like this with my grandpa too, because he was asking about what church and stuff I went to. I think it's important because, like, if you said no, I'm not a Christian,
Mhm.
I believe in God, they would probably instantly all of a sudden be worried and praying
Yes,
for,
they would.
is Bethany going to hell?
And they'd want to have more talks with me, which I'm like, I'm not even like,
Don't
right.
have the mental
But I mean, they would
capacity.
have, I mean, I'm sure they would all have this fear, like, oh my gosh, my
Yes.
sister's going to hell.
And it's
be
for
like,
your well-being.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
in a good
because,
place. But
yeah, because they do love you too, right?
yeah,
Part of it may be judgment, part of it's that they love
Yeah.
you. But like knowing that, hey, if I say this, they're not going to be over there spending all their time praying for me and having other focus on me because of it. And I had the same, very similar situation with my grandpa. Like, he wanted to make sure the kind of church I went to was what he was
Mhm.
wanting me to go to. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty similar to that, like,
Yeah.
because I know, but I know he's wanting to know that, am I believing that Jesus died on the cross for my sins, so that he's wanting to know that I'm going to end up in heaven. He's
Mhm.
wanting to know that I am making decisions that please God. And so for him, as my grandpa, who's very old, right, I want him to have peace. I don't want him sitting there worrying as a very elderly man about whether his granddaughter is going to have, like, he's got enough,
Got enough going
other
on.
things that
Yeah.
he's thinking about at this point in his life. And so I think it's important to know that like,
yeah,
even responding in those, like, that's probably one of the only people I would respond that way to. Whereas anyone else would be like, hey, if you want to pray for me like crazy, have at it. But I'm
Yeah.
good over here.
yeah.
Me and God, we good.
there was another definition of spirituality that I think you were about to read. And I just like glanced over and saw some of it, and I was like, oh, that's really good, because these definitions of spirituality sound more like Jesus than Christianity.
They
does.
do. And it's funny because I've said that I'm into spirituality and spiritualists and things like that, just kind of casually, not that many times, but like when I decided I wasn't going to call myself a Christian, this is the term that I was just kind of popped in my head and I was drawn to. So was it this one here?
Mhm.
Okay. So spirituality involves exploring certain universal themes: love, compassion, altruism, life after death, wisdom, and truth, with the knowledge that some people, such as saints or enlightened individuals, have achieved and manifested higher levels of development than the ordinary person. And I see that, like, some of you guys are probably listening to this going, the enlightened individuals. No, I think there is a level of, I think that word enlightenment is people that have really, really connected with God. Look at people in scripture who had different
Mhm.
relationships with God, where it was highlighted that they had a much bigger connection than the
Right.
rest of the people.
Yeah, I mean, Enoch walked with God, and
Yeah.
then he just was like disappeared physically and went like
I would call that
God
being pretty,
died.
he's pretty
Like-
enlightened.
like if somebody did that in
That
today's
takes
world,
enlightenment.
right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody did that in today's world, would be like they're messing with Satan, like they're a witch, they're a whatever. The devil didn't make any of that. First of all,
Yeah.
he can't do, like, he's just taken what God made and twisted it. So there is truth in that. Like, what if we stop being afraid of the dark and just turn on the light? Like, what
Take
are we
it back.
doing? Right? Take it back. Yes. Because Jesus did. I mean, he didn't like defeat, just half-ass defeated. He defeated completely. So why are we over here half-assing things?
If we're supposed to do greater.
Exactly.
Yeah.
haven't seen anybody do greater than Jesus yet. And I'm want to be one of those people. So I don't know what I call myself.
So on that note.
Like I believe in God. I'm a spiritual person.
I think the good summary of this conversation, though, really is like, excuse me, it's not even about what you call yourself. Like,
Right.
maybe you want to like look at that a little bit closer and see what it really
Right.
means. But it's like, what are the qualities of the people around you who call themselves Christians? What are the qualities they have? And does it look like Jesus?
Right.
And do you want to put yourself into that category of people?
Right.
Or do you want to feel like you are set aside? Do you want to get an up level? Do you want to get an upgrade in your relationship with God? And as closeness with Jesus, do you want to have this enlightenment? Do you want to have these these self-disciplines, this integrity, this honesty, patience,
Mhm.
Like courage, faith, like the fruits of the spirit at their fullest, honestly. Do you want to
Mhm.
have those things? Because I think sometimes we have to, they say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Sometimes we've got to pull ourselves out of that situation. Like, wait a minute, I don't want to be a Christian anymore because I want to go higher than this. I don't want to be sitting in the pews hearing about how we're evil sinners and how we need to bring people to church so they can get saved. No, I want to be out there building massive businesses that change the world. I want to be making changes in government. I want to be able to hear from God so clearly that I'm finding solutions for foster care and what's happening and the fact that there's so many parentless children. I want to get rid of starvation. I want like all these things,
Right.
because when that is what reaching those higher levels of enlightenment is being able to connect with God on such a level that you've pushed aside all these, like, I gotta try not to do this today. I gotta try to be nice to people. I gotta try
Like
not to have
lower
this
levels
thought.
of thinking.
Yes, like that's childish things. Like, we don't need to be worried about those childish things. What we need to be focusing on is, hold on, am I attentive enough so that I make sure I don't miss what God's trying to tell me? Because he may be throwing a download at me that I need.
Yeah. Yep.
That I'm missing out on because
Yep.
I'm over here worried about trying to get my friend to come to church, when my
Right.
friend may be over here actually changing the world because they are hearing from God, because they don't have these rules and these boundaries on them.
They're
And
actually being
holding it
Jesus
back.
to the people.
Yes.
Instead of just trying to get people inside of 4 walls.
And there's a lot of people who hear God better than some Christians do.
100%.
People who aren't Christians. Because newsflash, God talks to all his kids, not just the people, not just the ones who think they're perfect,
Not just the ones that acknowledge him.
right? Like he talks to every single one of them because he's a good father and he's not distant and abusive and manipulative. He's kind and good and generous, and he like talks to every single one. And like, I think Christians think that they have the upper hand, or the upper hand in like, oh, well, God loves, like, they don't say it, and I don't think that they mean to believe it, but it's almost like this attitude of God loves me more because I'm a Christian, or like I have more access.
True.
Like, yeah, I have more access to God because I'm a Christian. Like, I'm actually going to get more when I die and go to heaven. Hey, like, said who? First of all, said who? Nobody said that. I mean, God didn't say that, first of all. Like, and he never set up this system of doing things in order to be good. Like, so where did this come from? Because that's super faulty and just not true. And I think that, like, I think they're the highest level for me personally. This could change, my thoughts on this could change tomorrow. So this is where I'm at today. I think the highest level for somebody to reach is when they don't need a label to define a relationship, the relationship they have with God. When they reach that point where they're like, where they're not bothered if somebody calls them a Christian, and they're not bothered if somebody calls them a heretic or whatever. Like, they don't care because the label can't touch them. It's like the Punchinello story in the Max Lucado books, the kids' books he wrote, where you haven't read that story. Oh, it makes me cry every time. Or like, there's these wooden puppets that Eli the woodmaker makes, just to make this short, and they go around putting stickers on each other all day. Like, dots are for people who can't do things well, stars are for people who excel and do like all these crazy things and are perfect, and their wood is good, like they're cut from like the best tree and all this stuff, because they've decided, the people have decided that this is the best tree. And Punchinello gets all the dots because he's clumsy, he can't stack the boxes high, he can't jump, he's not, good in school, whatever. And he like just runs out of the village because he's got all these dots. But there's just one girl that he is his friend, and people try to put things, dots and stars on her, and they just fall, like nothing sticks to her. And he's like, how are you, like, what the hell, what are you doing? And she's like, I go see Eli every day. And he's like, who's Eli? And she's like, he's that guy on the hill. And he's like, oh, that guy, because he has his house on the hill, and he's like really scared. He's like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to go near that because he's so big. Well, one day he like runs out in the woods, and because he's so tired of having all these dots stuck on him because they stick, because he's like, oh yeah, I'm just a piece of shit. Like, yeah, I really, every time somebody puts a dot, said. And so Lucado wrote it himself. So anyway, long story short, he stumbles into Eli's wood carving shop by accident. He doesn't mean to. And he's like, oh my gosh, like this is the shop. I'm terrified. And he tries to like back away slowly to like go out the door. And of course he trips over something and it makes a noise. And he hears Eli's voice, and Eli like puts him up on the bench and is like, hey, what's going on? And Punchnell just doesn't want to look at him because he's like embarrassed. And Eli just keeps asking him questions like, I'm so glad you came to see me. I've been waiting to see you. Like, what do these dots mean? And what's going on with that? And like Punchnell just told him the whole story. And Eli's like, I never made you to be like their opinion really doesn't matter. I'm the one who made you. And did you know that wood, because he was made of like the weakest wood, they told him. He's like, that your wood is actually the strongest because it bends easily. You can't break it. It just bends. Anyway, and so just like that whole like,
cool.
It only sticks if you believe.
If you let it, yeah.
And like the labels didn't stick to his friend, but because she had such a relationship with her maker, she didn't matter. It didn't, like the townspeople was just like, I don't really care. Like, you're not the person who made me, so I really don't give a rip what you think.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
I think that's a good way to end this episode.
I know.
And just like, I think we'll end it there.
Yeah.
You guys like and subscribe. Follow for more episodes. We'll see you later.
See ya.